Good morning, children. Today let us discuss about an electrolytic cell or a voltmeter. Okay, you will see a diagram here. In this diagram, if you carefully go through, you will find a vessel, and here you will find the battery, and here is a negative terminal, which we commonly called a cathode, and you will find a positive terminal here that we call it as a anode. In addition to all these things, you will find a solution. We normally call it electrolyte. This the whole setup, the entire setup, normally we call it electrolytic cell or a voltmeter. Let us see what is the definition. It is a non-conducting vessel, just like here is a glass jar. It's a non-conducting vessel containing two electrodes. Two electrodes means one is cathode and second one is anode. These are the two electrodes, and immersed in an electrolyte. You will find here the electrolyte. Both the rods are immersed in this electrolyte. And for what we are doing all these things? To bring out a chemical reaction, to perform a chemical reaction. We are doing all these things with the help of electrical energy. And during this process, actually what happens is electrical energy is converted into chemical energy. This point you have to keep it in your mind. During this electrolysis, electrical energy is converted into chemical energy. That's all about this voltmeter or electrolytic cell. Just for your information, you have to keep all these things in your mind. Let me move to the next point. Next point is electrochemical cell. It is a device used to convert chemical energy into electrical energy. Actually, in this chapter, there is no need to by heart about this definition. Just to differentiate these two, I give both the definitions here. Just I'll give you an example. If you take ordinary cell, which we normally use at home, normally in torch and remotes, we are using various types of cells, and one side you will find a small projection here, and the other side is quite flat, and that flat side normally is the negative side, and the other side is the positive terminal. And if you see this cell or a battery, we call it normally electrochemical cell. Only one point you have to keep it in your mind. In this cell, what happens is we are using this cell for producing electricity. So in this cell, chemical reaction takes place within inside the cell, and electrical energy is produced. Normal battery, so in physics you must have learned about simple voltaic cell. Okay, the main point is in this device, what happens? Chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. In torch we use these kind of cells, and it produces electricity, and that is why the light is produced there. And whereas in voltmeter, electrical energy is converting into chemical energy. That means chemical reaction is the ultimate result, whereas here electrical energy is produced with the help of chemical reaction. That is a point you have to keep it in your mind. Okay, mainly you learned the first definition for examination point of view. Let me move to the next point. About electrodes, you all know all these things from class 8 onwards. You are learning all these things. Still, let me try to explain to you once again the terminal through which current enters and leaves the electrolytic cell are called electrodes. Normally we have two electrodes. As I told you, this is symbol of a cell, and the negative terminal we normally call it cathode, and the positive terminal we normally call it anode. And these two terminals through which electricity enters and leaves into the electrolytic cell, these two terminals we normally call it electrodes. So the common electrodes are cathode, which is negatively charged, and the second one is anode, which is positively charged. Okay, these two terminals we normally call it as electrodes. I think it is clear for you. Let me move to the next page. Let us see what is given here. Okay, and in this page there are a few more definitions. First of all, we have discussed about just the previous page we have discussed about electrodes. Now here comes cathode and anode very clearly. The anode in your book, it's somewhere it is given that anode contains two letters AD, add say up. Just keep it in your mind that the sign is positive. Okay, positively charged terminals, we normally call it anode. The electrode connected to the positive terminal of the battery, we call it anode, and the electrode which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, we call it cathode. A very simple definition for class 10 students. So here is cathode, which is already I told you negatively charged terminal, and here is anode, which is positively charged. Okay, this simple definition also please by heart for examination point of view. Let us see the other two definitions given in this page, that is anion and cation. These are the next two definitions. Anions are the ions, the simple language, the ions which is, just to see here, come to this side, the ions which is moving towards anode. एनोड की तरफ जाने वाला आयन्स को हम लोग आयन्स कहते हैं. ओके, एनोड, यू नो दैट एनोड इज positively charged, so of course towards positively charged terminal negative ions will be moving. So the negative ions which are moving towards positive terminal yani anode, those ions we call it anions. Let us see the definition which is given here. The negatively charged ions which move towards anode and lose electrons, we call it anions. And losing and gaining of electron concept I will explain in coming pages when we discuss about electrolysis in detail. The first thing what you have to learn here is about anion, negatively charged ion which is migrating, moving towards anode. We call it as anions. Okay, the same way cations means the ions which are moving towards cathode. Cathode is negatively charged, so towards negative terminal definitely positive ions will be moving. So the ions which are moving towards cathode, those ions are called cations. So here comes the definition. The positively charged ion which migrate towards cathode and gain electron is called cations. Okay, gaining and losing electron concept I told you I'll discuss in the next page. Okay, with the electrolysis. I think the definition is very clear for you. Or even though these definitions are very simple, sometimes you may get confused with anions and anode, cations and cathode. These are looks similar terms, so you need to be careful. I would say the best thing what I can do here is you by heart the definition of anode and cathode. When it comes to ions, just you reverse the charge which you have learned for anode. Okay, so if you learn all the four, then sometimes there can be confusion in your mind. Okay, confusion may arise. Okay, let me move to the next point. That's about oxidation and reduction. Oxidation means in chemistry losing of electrons, we call it oxidation. Okay, simple, you keep it in your mind. For temporarily losing of electron, we call it oxidation, and gaining of electron is called reduction. The definition is somewhat incomplete here, so please some page setup is some problem is there. So that is why the definition is not complete there, but the definition I have written the same way. The process in which an atom or ion loses electron is called oxidation. For reduction, the process in which an atom or ion, instead of a lose, the word will be gain. That is the only difference. Okay, so by heart these two definition also. This is very important for examination point of view. For the time being, oxidation means losing of electrons, and for reduction means gaining of electrons. Okay, so these are very common terms which we use in during electrolysis. So please by heart all these definitions. So from next video onwards we will start the details of the chapter electrolysis. Okay, that's all for today, children. Thank you.